What's up, everybody? Hope you're having an amazing day today. I am Peter Cole, and welcome to Indie Game Spotlight, a series where I talk about the indie games I think deserve some more recognition. Today, we're talking about an indie game that was just released on the Nintendo Switch, Hollow Knight. Even though Hollow Knight released in February 2017 on PC, as with most games releasing on the Nintendo Switch, Hollow Knight has received a second wind of sorts. While it was highly reviewed upon original release, the Nintendo Switch seems like a perfect platform for Hollow Knight. It's hard to describe what genre of game Hollow Knight is, but I think the easiest way would be to call it a Metroidvania Souls-like. It's a game with quick, difficult combat, a sprawling world you can explore in any direction, but will need certain abilities to access certain areas, and dozens of bosses. The graphics are stunning and atmospheric, the soundtrack is haunting and beautiful, and the world has a history, lore, and story that are vague like the Souls games, while also being complex and full of depth. When you first enter the world of Hollow Knight, it becomes apparent that you are in an ancient, foreign land. It makes me think of what a hostile, much darker Undertale would be like. A world of monsters seemingly untouched for eons for everything except for its inhabitants. However, it quickly becomes apparent that there is good in these subterranean crypts, and before long, you start to understand a bit of what's going on. Much like the Souls games, the lore of Hollow Knight is vague and given to you in small amounts, requiring you as the player to piece together what's going on. The thing Hollow Knight does better than the Souls games though is that it not only has more content story-wise, but also goes a lot deeper with the context. You'll be able to understand most of what Hollow Knight is trying to tell you after playing for 30 hours, and you shouldn't need to go online reading forums to figure out the more intricate details. Hollow Knight is a full experience, and the story and lore are a key player in that. The characters in Hollow Knight, both ally and enemy, are all interesting and have varied personalities. You'll learn a lot about the world through their perspectives, and they also quickly send you on your journey that is a lot more than I expected from the plot. The actual land of Hollow Knight is just as essential to the story being told. Every area of the game has a distinct, living feel to it. As you travel through Green Path, the grass will move beneath your feet, and you'll feel torn between the lush land and the dark, horrid enemies you face. When you enter the capital city of Hollow Knight, the City of Tears, you'll be immersed in a giant cavern with rain constantly falling, and the reason for that rainfall is itself an incredible discovery. The art style plays a significant role in the atmosphere of each area, with some areas being incredibly colorful, while others are mute and dull. On top of the art lies Hollow Knight's fantastic soundtrack. Part beautiful, part haunting, and part mysterious, the music and sound effects of Hollow Knight are incredibly immersing. Each sound effect sounds excellent, and everything from swinging a weapon and cutting the grass or whatever it is that's on the ground, the sounds all the enemies make, or the sound of your nail crushing your foe, all of it is well executed. The music makes each area, battle, and scene that much more impactful, with certain areas making me surprisingly emotional when I don't think they should have. But you know, music and emotions can do that to a person. Now, I mentioned the game is also part Metroidvania at the beginning, and this is the first half of Hollow Knight's gameplay that makes it such an exceptional game. The world of Hollow Knight is basically free to explore, but much like the previous games in the genre, there are areas you will need certain abilities to surpass, such as a wall climb or dash ability. Much like other Metroidvania games, exploration is thoroughly rewarded with tons of bosses, secrets all over the place, and loot like charms and geo that allow you to become more powerful and find other new areas. Also, there's a substantial amount of optional content in Hollow Knight, and much of it's the best content in the game. You could spend under 10 hours in the game skipping most of the content and beating the game. Also, the game has multiple endings depending on what items you get, places you explore, and actions you take, meaning you can spend easily over 30 hours exploring and finding all the game has to offer. All of this leads to a sense of discovery that's almost never ending. I always found myself wanting to go on to the next area and couldn't put down my Switch even into the wee hours of the morning because I knew there were more areas to see. There's also a lot of lore to be found through optional content, so it will not only be more enjoyable, but the game actually makes more sense the more you explore. But of course, the core of Hollow Knight is its smooth, difficult, and unforgiving gameplay. You can't block in the game, but your nail serves as a powerful weapon, and you can jump as well as quickly move to dodge and strategically strike. However, the real key of the combat is that every enemy has different attacks, and it will require patience and a willingness to learn enemy attack patterns to beat some of the more difficult bosses. This makes each new encounter one filled with tension, but also excitement. Oh, and gives you the knowledge that you'll probably die. And that's something else to note regarding relation to the Souls series. In Hollow Knight, you must prepare to die. You will die many times, but to the game's credit, this will always feel like your fault and something you'll correct the next time, and never feel like a cheap death because of an issue with the game. When you die, you'll be able to chase down your corpse and fight your spirit to be able to gain back all of your currency and souls, but more on that later. Also, when you die, your soul vessel is cracked, meaning you can't carry as many souls, which is similar to the living or undead mechanic when you die in the Dark Souls series. Also, can we talk about the boss battles in this game? I'm gonna be honest, some of these bosses are the best I've seen since Cuphead. Incredible designs, increasingly difficult, changes in forms and attack patterns, everything you want from bosses is present in Hollow Knight. What I love about this is that there are so many bosses in the game, and they're all unique and require different tactics from the player. On top of that, there are tons of mini bosses as well, and they're also full of variety and offer a ton of loot. Bosses feel like a great payoff for long periods of exploring, and they change up the pacing well and keep things fresh. The beauty of the combat in Hollow Knight is that it never makes you feel like you were unfairly treated, it makes you a better player with every fight you're in. While the first couple hours may seem daunting and even too difficult, if you stick with it, Hollow Knight becomes exceptionally rewarding, and you begin to have a certain flow in battles as well as an ability to understand enemies quicker, thus making your deaths more infrequent and your successes more enjoyable. When you kill an enemy, you'll probably gain the game's currency, but more importantly, you'll be able to take their soul and use it to heal. As I mentioned earlier, you have a soul vessel in which you keep these souls, and you can use them to heal as soon as you have them or store them for later when you get into more difficult battles. You also gain towards your souls when you hit enemies, meaning even with no health you'll feel encouraged to try and keep hitting your target while also not being hit yourself, creating some high tension filled moments. Along with souls, you gain Geo from enemies, which is the currency in Hollow Knight. Geo is used to buy useful items in the shops, open gateways, and buy charms. You'll buy items that will help you know where to go and understand the map, as well as revealing secrets and benches so you can save and select your charms. And those charms are an intriguing way to customize your character during your playtime. Whether they're adding passive bonuses like gathering more soul or being able to heal more effectively, firing a blast of maggots at enemies, or even simple and basic buffs, charms are how you can change the playstyle and adapt to each situation. Whether you're trying to grind for loot or go after a difficult boss, charms can help you have the upper hand. However, there is a downside to using charms, and if you use too many, you'll become more vulnerable and will have to make up for the extra weakness with the charms you choose. Charms can be changed at the benches throughout the game, which are also save points. Oh, and did I mention Hollow Knight on Nintendo Switch comes with all 3 content packs released so far and the final content pack releasing in August? Yeah, there is a lot more than 30 hours of content in this game, and even if you beat the core game, you'll have so much more to do. Hollow Knight is currently $15 on the Nintendo Switch, and it is worth that price tag and honestly worth at least double that. If you haven't played Hollow Knight yet, pick it up. You won't regret it. And as this was the first episode of my Indie Games Spotlight series, I would love your feedback and to know any other games you would recommend me spotlight. Is this format too long or too short? Did I go into too much detail or not enough? I want these videos to help you decide whether these games are worth playing and to encourage gamers to play some of the great games coming out that may get overlooked. Any feedback or recommendations are much appreciated. And if you like this video and you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button and drop a like so YouTube knows people are digging the video, and promote it more so people can get the value here as well. And if you want to be notified when I post, hit the notification bell. Also make sure to enter the giveaway in the description down below. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and let's continue creating the greatest community in the world. I'll see all you guys in the next video.